Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Subculture Talk. I am your host, Pat626, normally bringing you Subculture Shock Sunday nights at 10 p.m. But for those of you that have only ever caught me online, did you know that I was not the first host of Subculture Shock? I wasn't even the third. But I did inherit it from one of my favorite people ever, Christiane Knight. Hi.
Hi.
Christiane Knight, if you name it in the goth industrial scene, she's probably done it. Be it DJ, promoter, musician, and now author and head of an online radio station. And also maker of fantastic faces. So, hi.
Hi.
So, first of all, thank you very much for, you were one of the first people I considered for having on the show. Once I decided I was going to do this regularly. And you're also a first on Subculture Talk because you're my first author.
Yay. Breaking all the barriers.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what you've been doing your whole life, though, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I just do stuff. Stuff needs to be done, and I do it.
Yeah. Well, so the funny thing is that even though I've known you for pretty much all of my time in the scene, I haven't known you for all of yours. So of course, I guess the best way to start off the show is to talk about your, as I like to put it, your supervillain origin story. So, how did you get involved with all of this? Gestures to everything.
Ooh, that's a long story. There's a lot of me. Well, music-wise, wow. I don't know. I started going to clubs in the 80s and I fell in love with all of that. I've always been a music person. I've always made music and loved music. And when I found goth, industrial, synth pop, post-punk, that was it. That was like my home. I felt like that was my heart home. So I went to clubs and whatnot, and I always wanted to be involved with it. I always wanted to be a DJ. I always wanted to make music. And when I moved to Charlottesville, there was nothing happening. When I first moved there, it was nothing. And I felt very alone in my gothicness and sad. And then one day, the dawning happened. And I went to that on a regular basis and was super happy about it. And then I started volunteering there to help with bouncing and working the door. And then I kind of inherited it. And that was exciting because before I inherited it, I was actually running shows out of practice space that I was at with my band, the Violet Dawning, and a couple of other bands in the Charlottesville area. So I had a kind of a practice run for being responsible for all that stuff before I took over the Dawning, and everything else was just sort of learning on the fly. And then I picked up doing Subculture Shock on the radio, just serendipitously, which was like my dream come true.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know, you know. Yeah, it just sort of all kind of fell into my hands. I think mostly because I'm one of those people that very much, when something needs to be done, I'm the person to put their hand up and go, all right, I'll do it. You know, I'll do it because I want to, and I'll do it because if I don't, I'm afraid nobody else will. That was very much how I felt about the Dawning. It was a situation where the people who had it and started it were going to just give up on it because it wasn't a thing that they cared about that much anymore. And I couldn't bear to have that happen. So myself and a couple of other people that were in my group, we all stood up and said, we're going to do it. And then it slowly dropped off and it became just me with my friends, which I have to put in here. I could never have done anything without the people behind me, all of the friends in the community, the people that were involved with it. I'm so grateful because everything I've done, in any kind of success I've had, has been because of the people behind me. I never forget that. And that was one of the things that I wanted to stress when I ran the Dawning, was that it wasn't my club night. You know, it was everybody's. And that was my driving force. I wanted something that everybody could come and enjoy and have, because it's such a great escape, and that's sort of how it fed into writing too. I mean, I've always been a writer, but my writing has always been about stories that help people feel better, feel things, get through trauma, get through the bad times. And that's kind of what I was aiming for with the books that I wrote. So it all kind of wraps together. And of course, my books are full of music. So, it all comes together in a big circle.
It really does. And we're gonna jump into that in a minute. But before we get there, you are getting, by the way, chats, including first-time people in the chat here saying hi. So you're already quite popular. Yes, waves, lots of waves. So also, just so you know, I think your Discord sounds are on still, because I'm getting a Discord notification sound in there.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me get rid of those guys. Bye guys.
Boop-a-da-boop.
Bye, there they go. I had to let everybody know to come over here. So now they're gone. Bye-bye.
So that actually, though, begs, you said that you started going to clubs and that. What was it about goth, industrial, spooky music, as you coined the term that I have stolen from you for over a decade now? What was it about that called out to you? Young Chris writing in a corner, thinking dark thoughts. Why goth music?
Well, because I walked in and said, "Look at all those other weirdos. They're just like me." It just really hit something in me that I'd always felt like I'd always been an outsider. I'd always felt like an outsider, and I'm a very theatrical person. I went to college for theater, so I'm very much like that kind of person. I have a lot of emotions, and all of those things really got hit when I walked into a club and I heard all of this music. Some of it I was familiar with before I went there, but then there was so much I wasn't. I was introduced to so much music when I started going to clubs. And that feeling where you just walk into a place, specifically a club if you're a person like one of us, and it just feels like home.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is where I was meant to go. And I walked in and just never left. I've been to a lot of goth and industrial clubs in my time, but there's only been a couple of places that felt super like home. And one was the first club I went to in Baltimore, which is a place called Signal, which is no longer in existence. And the other one was the Dawning. So everything I did at the Dawning, it was based on the feeling that I got at Signal, that feeling of like walking in and just feeling home and being able to lose yourself in that music and the people around you, and know that those people could relate to the same kinds of things you were going through. I came out of the punk scene, so I was, even before that, I had been going to punk shows, and it was really amazing to me, like when I first started going, how many people also transferred over from the punk scene to the goth industrial scene and moved back and forth really freely. It was amazing. I'm
pretty sure you could, and many people probably have written papers about that.
Yeah. So, it's just amazing to me. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
No. This is your show. People hear me talk all the time. So like, whatever you have to say is definitely more important. So you made music and you showcased music, and eventually now we come around to what, 2020 was when the first novel came out?
Yeah.
So what finally, after all this time, made you go, all right, that's it, time to publish a book?
Well, funny thing is that I had the germ of the first book since Charlottesville, since like, I think I started writing it in like 96. I had the base of it, but it wasn't very good. I mean, because I just hadn't, I had spewed some of it out and then I kind of let it go. But then the pandemic hit, and between the pandemic and me being ill, which has really kind of shut down everything I could do. You know, I was stuck here doing nothing. I just kind of got that kick in the butt that said, why don't you turn back and like go with this book again? Because there's so many things that I think would be helpful now, you know, and I really needed something that had a sense of hope in it, a sense of a purpose, you know, where you can actually move through and solve problems and come out on the other side feeling good. And that really just kicked me into gear. And I cranked this book out, and I think I wrote it and rewrote the beginning of it and solided it up and then finished it in about 2.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just gone. You know, once I got into it, it just went really fast. Having the characters in my head for a really long time helped. The characters are very fully formed for me. I can tell you lots of things about them. Like, I know them really well, so that helps too.
You could put together like everyone's favorite foods, their favorite songs, favorite colors.
Yes, indeed.
Favorite obscure British TV show.
Most definitely. Most definitely. They all watch The Young Ones, all of them.
Every single one. All right. Well, at least they agree on something. So I could have just launched in to just the book, because obviously that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about your first novel that was released in 2020, which I actually have in my hot little hands here. Yep. Book Buddies, In Sleep You Know. And then also the new one, Cast Shadow of Doubt, which I don't have yet, but I'm looking forward to. It, to my credit, it only just came out like
beginning of the month.
So, all right. Considering it took me like a year to get this one,
They're not going to be bad. That's the good thing.
But the reason I wanted to talk about your work in the goth industrial scene and the amount of time that you've spent in it, not just making a place for people to gather, but also making a place for like bands to shine, because God knows the number of bands that played in Charlottesville during your tenure, and the number of bands that I personally heard say, you know, Charlottesville's not the biggest scene we've ever played, but it's probably like one of the nicest, one of the most welcoming. And you helped be a part of that. So there's a love for the goth industrial music scene in this book, all over this book. And I feel like I like what you said about how, you know, you walked in to a club and immediately like, oh, here are where all the weirdos are. These are all my people, obviously. And that's kind of how I felt reading this book. I had never met these characters before. Their names were new to me, but I know these people. And the fact that sometimes a band name gets dropped, like Supper Eternus or Sisters of Mercy, and you don't stop to explain to the reader what that means. Like, you know, it's like either you know who Supper Eternus is or you don't. And people that we'll talk about the breadcrumbs that you left for people that weren't into the goth scene to get into it, but the people who already have been immediately feel at home reading this.
Yay, because you're my people. My people. I mean, that's yeah, I mean that is, it's the same kind of feeling. I wanted people who have look for the magic, you know, like there are people who have given up on the magic out there. You know, they don't see it anymore because life is hard. Things have been really depressing lately. It's easy to forget.
Wait, what's been depressing about things lately?
You know, Bitcoin and Russian skaters. I don't know. But you know, it's so easy to forget about the little magic, the little bits of magic that are scattered all throughout the world. And those are the people who I think are into the same that kind of music that we love, because it is so, we don't get the shout outs, we don't find those little dribs and drabs. And when we do, we obsess over it because it's so exciting that there's that recognition again. So having those little bits of magic throughout the book that speak to us was really important to me. These characters are our people too, definitely.
Yeah, I also I talked about it on Facebook. I called this book, and probably this book series, because I imagine the second one is very similar, as a book that is obviously written by a DJ for music fans. Not just because of the number of references to bands in there, but even like the way the whole novel is structured like a mixtape, which I think is fantastic. Instead of chapter titles, we have the music and just an artist and song titles. So Mira, TikTok, Ships in the Night, Dark Places, The Sundays, I Feel. And that's cool enough, because immediately that gives someone who has not really experienced much of the goth industrial scene, instead discovered this book because, hey, fairies are cool and urban fantasy is awesome. I read a Charles DeLint novel and I want more. Those kind of people will discover this as well, and you've opened a doorway for them to then discover more about the subculture in it. And I was really, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I totally was, that there's even a link in here to the Spotify playlist for the book.
Yeah, I make it easy for you. You can sit there and listen to it. When I wrote the book, I was compiling the playlist as I went. So as I would write, I would play through the playlist over and over and over again, kind of getting myself into it. Each song for the chapter also contains some clues, some contextual clues about the state of mind of one of the characters in there, or something that's going on in the underneath of all of it.
I kept waiting in Heart of the Party for someone to say die and go to hell, by the way. The entire time I was reading that chapter.
I had to put that song in there. I had to. It's just so, it has that same kind of like, what the hell did I get myself into energy?
Right. Yeah.
For people who don't know, that chapter, the main character walks into a party. He basically crashes a party, and he doesn't know that the party is at the house of the Fae, and everything just kind of goes sideways. It's just, nothing is what he expects whatsoever. It's just absolutely nutters. So.
Well, and I think that's another fascinating thing about this whole experience, is that, like, as someone who has always been a fan of like Fae lore and could actually recognize a lot of the rituals and the rules that were being followed in some of these scenes, to then see it again relate to like a goth club or a house party, and being like, oh, actually the rules for party crashing are kind of similar. Yeah, no, you bring the good beer. If you're going to show up uninvited, at least bring something good. And like what? Why had I never thought of this before?
It's a universal thing. It really is. Yeah, I also like to drop the fairy food bits in there too. I write a lot about food in both these books because it's such a vital aspect of fairy culture, and it's also really fun to write about opulent food that you may not be able to encounter on a day-to-day basis. But one of the characters in the second book really gets into baking, which is super fun.
See, I was really fascinated by the characters that seem to live on a diet of just beer, meat, and cheese, which is pretty much my 20s. So,
yeah, there are a couple of characters who are really obsessed with beer, really obsessed, and those are definitely characters based on some people that I know.
Well, and that's a thing, like kind of what I was saying before, of like, I've known you for a long time, and I was in Charlottesville for a lot of the dawning, but even then, even if I don't recognize people from that time that these characters are based off of, I recognize these characters. Like, I know that guy, I know her, I know him, and that's something that I don't know. I feel like, I guess that leads me to another point about this novel and the series as a whole, that it wasn't even the weird fae bullshit that actually kept me reading. Like, that stuff's always fascinating to me, but for me it was the realness of some of the characters. You mentioned that Merrick is the main character, but honestly, in reading this, I kind of discovered what I felt like was like the stealth main character, who then end up becoming the main character for the second book anyway. So like,
Yeah, that's Lucy, and Lucy is a total badass, and just she's such a breath of fresh air. She's so much fun to write. Well, I like a few of the things that she has going on for her based on some of the things that I like waffles, and being a little force of reality in all of this flight of fancy happening. But she's just so much fun to write, and
thank you for answering the question that I didn't ask of whether Lucy was the character most like yourself or not.
There's a little bit of me in several characters, to be honest, but I like Lucy reminds me a little bit of who I was when I was younger, and a little more foolhardy and just super raring to go. Like, what's happening? Let's go do it. She's very supportive. One of the things I like about Lucy the most is that she supports her friends wholeheartedly. Like, she is there all the time. Like, Merrick disappears for days, and what does she do? She comes and she bangs on his door and brings him Chinese food. I mean, what kind of friend is that? That's the best friend to have, right? She's always there when things go bad. That's who Lucy is.
I kind of found myself, I think it was her dialogue, that it was her character and her particular struggles trying to absorb everything that was going on, that I found engrossing most of all, and I really felt like she's this big anchor of reality, which is something important in a supernatural story.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that comes into play a lot in Cast a Shadow of Doubt too, because she ends up with a lot of power, and because of that, and being the kind of person that she is, she ends up with a pretty strong case of imposter syndrome, because here she is, this girl rooted in reality, and she's having to order around all these fake creatures. It's not an easy thing for her to reconcile at all. And writing that was really, really fun in a way, because I can relate to that. You want to talk about imposter syndrome, I have it out the wazoo, and many of my friends do too. So I think that makes it really relatable. I'm really honest about it, and she's really honest about it too.
Well, so you mentioned that there's a lot of hope in these stories, but also a lot of processing and dealing with trauma. How much of your own processing is being done in the telling of these tales?
Oh, so much. Again, a lot of what my characters go through are based on things that either I have gone through or people I know have gone through. A lot of the characters don't have really good family lives. Like Merrick's family are rich, but they don't care about him. Lucy's family struggles, and her dad is a control freak. Valley, her family, she was a foster, and she doesn't even really know her family. She was kicked all around and ended up living on the street. And they all have these things they have to deal with, and they come together to kind of make their own family, which is another thing that I relate to, and I see as far as like what I've experienced in clubs and scenes, is that so many of us have come together to make our own family. Found family is the best family. That building of community and found family is the basis of both of these books in a lot of ways.
I feel like that's a good way to kind of segue into the next conversation too, because there's a lot of, you talked about the Dawning as being a community, and then you talked about the books as being about building that community and that feeling of found family. So on top of all this, if that weren't enough, you kind of have recently, in the past year, jumped back into the DJ foray, but not in the way that most people, such as myself, have done with a bunch of live streams. Instead, you created an entire internet radio station. And I guess, to put it simply, where the hell did that come from?
I don't know, and I'd like to know also. I keep hearing noise. Let me close this too. I think I keep coming up with some sort of background noise. I don't like it. I don't know. I really wanted to DJ again, but my energy has kind of been all over the place. And it occurred to me that I have this website sitting there that's not really doing anything, Xiane.org, and I could just stick a radio station on it, and then I would be able to have music and do shows when I felt like it, and restream shows like your shows. And I have space if other people are interested in restreaming. It's such a simple thing. I mean, like, setup actually wasn't that hard. I have so much music. I mean, and I get more music now all the time because so many bands have been great about contributing to Radio Xiane, and they're excited to have their music on, streaming 24 hours a day. It's, so that makes it easy. But the space was there and it had to be done. It had to be done.
Okay, so you talked about imposter syndrome and feeling like, am I really worth any sort of praise whatsoever, for instance? And multiple times now I've heard, well, it needed to be done, so I did it. You realize that sometimes I can't even get off the sofa. And you're just like, oh yeah, no, like, it has to be done, so I did it. And oh, well, I just had this website sitting around, I would have just filled it up with memes. And you're like, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just plop a radio station on there, no problem.
It's just, I mean, a lot of times I do sit on the sofa. I can't do the stuff I used to do. I think about, like, when I was promoting for the Dawning and how I would go out and walk all over Charlottesville and put up flyers for hours. I'm like, oh, that's so tiring. But I can do stuff from my sofa, like make a radio station. I don't know. I guess, I talked the other day about love languages because I was talking about love languages with my characters. But that's my love language, I guess, is acts of service. I really want to, I want to make a difference. And maybe it's not a big difference, because it's music. I mean, to me, it's a huge difference. Music saved my life. I can say that straight up. Music has saved my life more times than I can shake a stick at. And if
don't go shaking sticks, it's dangerous.
If I can help other people by having music available and promoting their music, why wouldn't I, right? I mean, that just seems like a no-brainer. That's just something that I feel I need to do. I don't know. Maybe, I just have this feeling like if something happened tomorrow, I'd like to leave something where people are like, okay, well, that was pretty cool. I guess.
The thing that I guess, and maybe this is a little bit more of a personal question than you were expecting. So feel free, as always, to tell me to shut my mouth. But do you ever, wonder if maybe though, like, you are going to be happy with what you've left behind. You've got people buying your books. You've got people listening to your radio station. You've got this goofy little MB that's like, hey, can you be on my interview show, please? What as most of us listening and watching this right now probably struggling with our own depression and our own feelings of self-worth. Are you ever proud of what you've done? Do you ever go, yeah, you know what, actually that was pretty cool?
It's funny. I don't think about it a lot unless I get depressed. Or if occasionally I've thought about it when I've been blatantly left out of recountings of things. I will admit it. I'm bad about that. But for the most part,
that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Like that feeling of anger is the sign that someone is not it's anger's like someone is like physical pain. Like it's your brain telling you that something has gone wrong.
Yeah, it's an insult, but like at the same time, I'm like, the people who know, so it, whatever, let them forget about me there, because that doesn't matter. The people who there are people who come to me all the time, like here and there, and they say that time mattered to me, that space mattered to me, and that gets me through the day. Like that's the stuff I live for. When people come to me and they say, this moment, or those words in that book, or that time that you danced with me at the dawning and I thought I wasn't anybody, and I'm like, well, I'm not anybody, and they think that I am somebody, I'm not. But like that mattered to them, and those little moments, that's the stuff that gets me through and makes me feel like maybe I did something. My imposter syndrome will always push me to think you could do more. You could be more, you're not enough. You could be more. But I have to try to learn that I can't do everything and be everything. And it's okay to not do everything and be everything, because what I've done is, it's all stuff that I've wanted to do. I had there's all stuff on my bucket list. I always wanted to be a DJ. I always wanted to be in a band. I always wanted to be a writer. Well, damn, I did it all, right?
Yeah, that is a very full bucket there.
Yeah, sometimes I can't even tell people all this stuff because it sounds like I'm bragging. I'm like, no, I just did it. But see,
but you've got bragging rights, though. Like,
yeah, and to be fair, though, I also didn't work a regular full-time job. Like, this is what I do. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a ne'er-do-well who doesn't make very much money. But I do cool stuff, but I don't get paid for it. Whatever. So there's that balance, and I try to remember that when I feel like, God, I'm just bragging about all this stuff, because I'm not. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have those kind of expenditures. I can do this stuff. I get to be an artist. That's what I get.
But that's a kind of neat, since we're talking about sowing some hope. All right. So first of all, you're getting a lot of support for this in chat, such as Christiane Knight is an amazing example to follow. A+ quality human. Don't forget the fiber. Amen. Lots of love there. But I think that's a really, if we're talking about sowing hope and help building community and helping all of us, all of those examples that you just gave are therefore like people also leaving something behind to be proud of, be it whether their parents or have helped build a community, or even just a full-time job that has kept them alive and in comfort. Like, these are all, I don't know, like I came here to talk about like goofy fairies and music that we love, and I find instead that we're all just kind of we're having this great experience of, hey, guess what? We're all awesome. We're all awesome, and we're all trying as hard as we can. And if that's not an example of the effect that someone who really cares about their community can have, I don't know what is.
I love you guys. I love you, Pat. I mean, everybody in chat, I can't see what you're saying, but I know, I'm pretty sure I know who all's there, and I love you very much. My friends are that's who gives me hope. Y'all give me hope. The people who I connect with, they give me the most hope. They're the reason I write the books that I write. They're the reason that I wanted to make a little corner in a basement that felt like happy for a while. Just like, you have to give back, you know? When the people that love you, you have to give something back. I don't know. We're all really awesome. We really are. I'm gonna cry. I mean, like, seriously, y'all are just...
You know what? That's fine. Crying is allowed. No
I'm
one's...
a crybaby, so... I just, you know, it's so hard to own up to the good things that we do, you know, and it's really interesting. Like I write a lot from places that hurt inside me, and that's how I heal, you know, by addressing it and having my characters address the things that hurt. And when I see people have that kind of where they connect up with those characters, I know that that's helping them too. You know, that's all I can hope for as a writer, is that recognizing that these characters have been through stuff that they've been through and managed to solve it. And they solve stuff sometimes with magic, but most of the times it's with their emotions and their minds and their thoughts. You know, there's nothing supernatural about the kinds of solutions they're coming up with. It's all about pooling together and thinking things through and trying to grow and change. So.
I don't think that I have ever been left this speechless in a Subculture Talk before. Yeah, no, that's wonderful, and also having a fantastic effect on the chat as well. So, I guess that does bring us to, you know, this has been a really hard couple of years for the community. I mean, for every community, but of course, you know, in our little corner of the social scene, we're all used to meeting up in clubs and at shows and or events or parties or whatever, and that's just not been a thing for quite some time. And it's led to a very interesting explosion of recordings and projects, novels, that sort of thing. But has that changed, like, the way that you approach the community at this point?
It's interesting. Well, for one, promoting is weird. Like, trying to get out and get people to connect up with my books is a really weird thing, because I can't connect in person. And I think, like, a lot of my effectiveness is a personal thing. I'm very personal with people, you know. I'm so, like, not having that connection where we can look at each other and, you know, like, really vibe back and forth has been really hard. And it's hard for me because I am such a people person. I love hanging out with people and talking to them. I mean, I write characters the way I do because I'm really into people, and I'm fascinated by them and how they move through the world. So that connection is not as easily established right now, because we can't look each other in the eye. We can't, you know, nudge each other and you know, go out on the dance floor and, like, make stupid moves at each other. And, you know, there's not that kind of connection. I can't go to conventions and, like, meet people. I can't go to clubs and talk about music or my books or whatever. And I think a lot of other people are feeling that too. I mean, now some people are starting to go out, I guess, but things like subculture shock, you know, it's like the closest we can get to that connection, to be able to go into chat and chat with each other, and we still can't see each other's faces. It's just really hard. It's really hard. I'm hoping that things will be able to change, and I'm hoping that when they do and we start to go back to see each other in person, that we can still maintain that kind of that quicker, deeper connection without all of the artifice that sometimes comes up at clubs, because, you know, there's nervousness and people just get twitchy sometimes, you know, when we're in person with each other. I really hope that deeper sort of connection sticks and transfers over to our day-to-day face-to-face kind of talk, is I can't wait to see people again.
I mean, we were talking about it, just like hearing each other's voices again even is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I hear your voice every week, but I don't get to talk to you. I can only text, you know, and like we chat all the time, but it's not the same at all. It's so nice. Just you guys don't know, but even before like we got on the air, we just been like blah, 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 blah,
yeah, we could not stop talking. We actually like, oh hey, look at the time, we have to do an interview. Whoops.
Yeah, it's so exciting just to be able to. I don't do phones very well, so I can call people. I totally could call, but I just don't like it. I miss that immediacy. It's weird too, because like I didn't feel like that, like talking this is fine. It's really like we're just hanging out in the same room almost, you know.
Yeah, I feel like at some point in time we're all gonna either, if it continues to drag on like this, we're all gonna have to find a way to get over some of that and just accept what we have with each other and make the most of it, because yeah, it drives me crazy to not be around people and be communicating and being in a community with people in the same way.
Yeah.
After 2 years.
Yeah. I feel really isolated, and I'm sure lots of other people do too. Especially because I can't go out and do, like, I really have to be careful with my risk factor. So like I go to the grocery store and I go to doctor's appointments, but that's about it. I don't see people otherwise. I see my mom, you know, that's it. That's, you know.
All right, Mom, we're going to make our own goth club for 2. Let's go.
She'd be down for it. See my mom dancing around.
You know, but even in that, you found hope. You wrote a couple of books about hope.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very hopeful person. I mean, I'm the ultimate optimist. And I kind of worried when I wrote these books because I was afraid that they would feel too optimistic, which is, I know, again, it's that imposter syndrome, over worrying kind of thing. But, you know, there is a lot of bad out there, sure, but we have to focus on the things that we can affect, right? I mean, we're small people, we're small beings, we can do small things. So you focus on that and you get the hope where you can from it, because the little bits of hope, that's what keeps you going.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that hope with us. I appreciate you continuing to keep going and even taking kind of the struggle to keep going and turning it into things that help us to keep going. And I appreciate you being on the show to talk about that.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Would you believe we have been babbling for 45 minutes now?
I believe.
Yeah. So, was there anything else before I cut you loose off into the wild blue yonder? Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before I start asking you for where we can find all your stuff?
Well, I would say that if you pick up my books, I recommend highly to buy the music from the bands that are in the soundtracks, because many of them, not all of them, but many of them are independent bands who really could use your money right now, especially because tours aren't really happening. I don't have links in there because I can only put so much information. But if you want links to the bands that are in there, I'm happy to provide them. You can contact me if you don't know me personally. You can contact me through my Facebook page, which is Facebook/Christiane Knight author, or you can send me an email through my website, christianeknight.com, and I will give you links for everything, because I want people to experience that music if they haven't. There's so many good bands that I name drop in there because they affected me, and they mean something to me. Every single song is important to me in these books, and I want people who read to get more music from these bands. Let me help you.
And so we've got christianeknight.org or .com. Excuse me. And then it's christianeknight.com, and then Xiane.org, which is xiane.org, and that's for Radio Xiane. And that's also where you can find Subculture Shock and After Party restreams. Yes.
Doing the heavy lifting. Yes.
Yes. So, and then Facebook, that's the other great place to find you. You're on the Twitters.
You're am.
On the Twitter.
That is Xiane_3 Ravens. So couldn't make it any harder. But you can also get there. You can find all that stuff through my website. Is the easiest way. It's the portal for everything. You can also get my books through there. There's links to everything, because you can go through Amazon or other retailers, or you can buy signed paperbacks from me, and I'm working on getting ebooks directly from me as well.
And I got a lovely signature, like I got a lovely signed copy too that had a beautiful note in it that brought it. It's bringing a tear to my eye right now, honestly. So, man, this has been Subculture Cry. That's what this episode's been.
That's what I do. I just sit around and write words and cry and listen to goth music.
Wow, I was gonna say, how fucking goth can you get? Jesus, we're a couple of caricatures here.
It's true. What can I do?
Oh, there we go. Actually, I have one last story for you. Then that little symbol there with the hand of the forehead, you actually taught me that. And when I was running a vampire LARP, we had different symbols for things like invisible and telepathy and that sort of thing. So if you were talking to ghosts, that was it. The I'm so gothic I'm dead hand pose. So your influence reaches far.
It's all that good gothic living, spreading it.
Well, now, phrasing. So, Christiane, thank you very much for being on the show. Thanks for joining, and thank you all the viewers. Probably one of the most active chats that I've had during Subculture Talk. So thank you very much, folks. Stick around. The after party is coming up in about 10 minutes, where there will be a whole lot of beat matched music. And otherwise, you'll find this on YouTube a little bit later. The YouTubes.
Yay.
Yay. And so, yeah. Thank you all again. And we'll see you later.